fangs, immortality, and a thirst for blood. Now, vampires have been one of the most feared and fascinating creatures in folklore, but in Magic the Gathering, these beings have evolved into something more terrifying and more powerful. From the blood-soaked courts of Innistrad to the vampiric warlords of Exelon, Magic's vampires are as diverse as they are deadly. But where do they come from? How have they changed over the years? And how did they become one of the more played tribes in Magic the Gathering? Now let's sink our teeth, not literally, into the history of vampires in Magic the Gathering. So one of Magic's first vampires appeared all the way back in the alpha set with the single legendary creature Sengir Vampire. Now it was a 4/4 flyer, had a unique ability. Whenever it destroyed a creature, it grew stronger, gaining a 1/1 counter. Now, while simple by today's standards, the ability set the stage for what Magic's vampires would become, predators who feed on the weak to grow in power. Now, Sengir Vampire wasn't just a card, it represented Magic's original vampire archetype. Named after Baron Sengir, a powerful vampire lord introduced later in 1995's Homeland's expansion. Baron Sengir ruled over the cursed land of Elgrotha, a gothic horror-inspired plane filled with the dark magic and ancient bloodlines. While Homelands wasn't a well-received set, Baron Sengir remained an iconic figure inspiring later vampire designs. For years, vampires would sporadically show up in sets like Mirage, Urza Saga. It wasn't until Torment in 2002 where vampires really started to evolve. Now with the heavier focus on black mana and life drain mechanics, vampires became more than just flying creatures. They became predators who could manipulate life totals and control the board through attrition. But the real transformation came with Zendikar in 2009. Now this was the first set to introduce vampires as a fully fleshed out, aggressive tribal archetype complete with lifelink, sacrifice mechanics, and combat aggressiveness. Now this was the moment that vampires went from the occasional threat to a fully backed archetype. And just 2 years later, we'd see a plane that would define them forever. Enter Innistrad in 2011. Now it's Magic's take on classic gothic horror. Here vampires weren't just creatures, they were lords, rulers, twisted aristocrats who saw themselves as superior to humanity. Now this was the first time that Magic's vampires were given a lore-driven identity. Unlike Zendikar's feral and wild vampires, Innistrad's vampire were part of an elitist bloodline society, complete with noble houses and their own twisted traditions. And this set introduced Edgar Markov, the progenitor of Innistrad's vampires. He was once a mortal alchemist, but he transformed himself in order to fight back against the werewolves and the angels. And we have Olivia Voldaren, a flamboyant and power-hungry vampire that wanted to rule all of Innistrad through blood and political manipulation. Now vampires in Innistrad weren't just physically terrifying, they were intelligent, calculated, and without mercy. This set also introduced mechanics that reinforced their themes, as vampires getting stronger when a creature dies, and abilities that activated or triggered when an opponent lost life. Now Innistrad established vampires as one of Magic's premier tribes, and their influence has only grown from there. And now we move on to Exelon. Now while Innistrad cemented vampires as cunning aristocrats, Exelon took them in a completely different direction as religious zealots. Now here, vampires weren't ruling nobility, instead the Legion of Dusk, a fanatical empire from Torrazon who saw eternal life as a divine right. Now those vampires weren't about manipulation, they're about conquest, faith, and ruthless domination. This was also the first set where vampires showed up with white mana, symbolizing their religious fanaticism. Now vampires also played a role in the War of the Spark, where Sengir Markov, one of the most famous vampire planeswalkers, went into battle against Nicol Bolas. Now Sorin's character arc, from a powerful but reluctant guardian of Innistrad to a desperate warrior fighting against godlike forces. It made him one of the most complex and well-developed vampires in Magic's lore. Now today, vampires remain as one of the most beloved tribes in all of Magic. They're up there with dragons and angels. They appear in majority of the sets that come out nowadays with black mana. But yes, from their humble beginnings with Sengir Vampire to the high society aristocrats of Innistrad and the militant zealots of Ixalan, vampires have proven to be one of the most diverse and adaptable tribes in the game. Now we all know in Commander, vampires are definitely a fan favorite, especially Edgar Markov with that eminence ability, making him one of the more powerful vampire commanders out there today. And with Innistrad Remastered coming out soon, Edgar Markov is going to be sought out more than ever, being reprinted for the first time in a while. Now vampires in Magic have evolved from being simple creatures with flying to one of the most complex, flavorful, and powerful beings in MTG. Whether you love playing them, hate playing against them, or just appreciate the artwork, the lore of the vampire cards, Magic's vampires are immortal in more ways than one. What's your favorite vampire card or deck? Let me know in the comments below, and also let me know if you're excited for Innistrad Remastered and if you're going to be picking up a few packs. If you enjoyed the brief history of vampires in MTG, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell for more Magic the Gathering content. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.